with a former AEW champion having talks with WWE and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Mentioning that she wanted a manager in WWE, Saraya told Superstar Crossover, "I wanted to be a Paul Heyman girl so bad. Everyone wanted to be a Paul Heyman girl, and I even said to him that I wanted to be a Paul Heyman girl. I was in his book. He put me in his book, and I was like, oh my god, I love you." Talking about the bloodline being run off by Sami Zayn and Matt Riddle on Raw, Vince Russo said this on his podcast. "I know Sami Zayn used to be El Generico. I think I worked with Sami Zayn once or twice when he was at TNA when he was El Generico. Here's what I know. He's been doing this for a very long time. They do this big run-in at the end because Kevin Owens, their buddy, is getting pumped. Sami Zayn is throwing punches like a girl. I'm a guy watching a television show. They are beating your best friend to a pulp. You guys come running through the parking garage like Superman and Batman side by side, and the minute you get out in the arena, you're going to start giving rabbit punches to the side of the head. I would love to know the excuse for that, because the second you throw that first rabbit punch that you wouldn't hurt a fly, you lost me. Now it's fake. Now it's phony, just like I thought it was. Look at the punches Sami Zayn is throwing. You've got to be better than that." Discussing the idea of Michael Cole retiring from commentary in WWE, Jim Ross said on his Grilling JR podcast, "Well, you know, to each his own. I'm in a situation, and we've talked about this before. It's a unique thing to be alone. It's a unique thing to have your life partner not with you. Speaking of Jan, so I work because I still love pro wrestling, and I love having somewhere to go every week. Michael's in a different situation. He's got a family at home. He's got a wonderful wife. I'm sure he saved his cash. He always was thrifty, and that's good. I don't know how much longer he's gonna go, but I don't perceive that as a shot at me whatsoever. Look, when I was his age, I would have never thought that good old JR would be doing a weekly show at 71 years old. Not many have done this. I do it for my own mental health, and I do it because I love it. This is gonna sound horrible, but I still think I'm pretty damn good at it. At least I try to be. I didn't look at it as a personal thing whatsoever. I like Michael. He's a good friend. We exchange texts from time to time. When I hear him do something I think is really, really good, I'll let him know, because that's what we all should do in our business." Speaking of retirement, Dolph Ziggler revealed the way he wants to hang up his boots, telling Comedy Store Wrestling, "I always kind of cop out on this and go, I want Miz, John Morrison, Zack Ryder, and myself to either have everybody running down. It's like Miz and myself, and then they're running in and picking sides or something, or we all just have this four-way match, and not Attitude Era guys, where we all hug each other afterwards, but we just do it, and we're out there like, we got it. We did this, we built it with a story, and I got to be here with my friends who I've been friends with because of the business. They always wanted to do more, and I just was drawn to them because Ryder was doing the YouTube show that we weren't doing, and it was like, this guy's trying everything. Miz was going above and beyond, doing some other show so we can get a push, and we were just all drawn to each other doing these extra things, and it's like, these are the people who want to be on top and are doing the extra work. So that would be cool, and I would like my brother to retire me." During an interview on Impulsive, Rey Mysterio recalled his battles with addiction, as he noted, "So during my big run in WWE and after so many surgeries, I got hooked on painkillers for a very long time. My wife caught me one time. We were on vacation. She saw that I was just out of it completely, so she gave me an ultimatum. She goes, so when we get back home, you can either take your pills or you can take your family. You choose." That really opened me up, and it made me a stronger person, because I remember getting back home to San Diego. I flew to TV, and the next day I spoke to Vince. I told him, boss, I need to check myself in. I'm gonna need some time off. He was cool with it. He was like, it takes a man to man up to what you're doing. That was a big life changer for me and a different perspective of life and the appreciation of family and the support of my wife. It's crazy. She's been there from day one. She went to my first match. It was bad, and to be able to recognize it and check yourself in and put everything aside and move on with your life to a positive note, it was crazy. I really enjoyed that phase of my life because I learned so much of what not to do. I was there for 30 days. I haven't told that story before. Another thing that was really big to me was that my kids were young. Dominik was maybe 10 years old, 12. My daughter was very young. I was really bad prior, but once I eliminated all that toxic mindset, clean. After I went to rehab, probably 3 years later, I ended up getting another surgery, and it was probably the worst one of all. I remember I was in mad pain. I tore my ACL. I sprained my MCL. They said pretty much my knee was dangling by one thread, so it was pretty bad. I remember I wrestled in San Diego that night, and we were the main event. I was wrestling Alberto Del Rio. In the first 2 minutes of the match, I felt that snap. I was like, oh, I'm effed up. Like, no, let's go home. That's it. I was like, no, let's keep going. We kept rolling, but then afterwards, I probably damaged it more in the 10 to 12 minutes that I stayed in the ring. I had the surgery. I came home and the doctor gave me painkillers. I took one, and throughout the night, because they had to drill 2 holes, my knee, I remember it was the worst pain I've ever felt from these surgeries that I've had in the past. I would tell my wife, no, I'm not going to take anything. I'm not going to take anything. And I controlled my pain as much as I could until she said, I can't stand watching like that. So it was pretty bad. I remember I was bawling out with this. She actually had them, so she controlled everything, but I didn't want to take them. Sticking with Rey Mysterio, he said this during that same interview about a future matchup against his son, Dominik. Maybe I put my mask on the line against his hair, which is some lucha culture. If I lose that, I take my mask off. If he loses, he shaves his hair off. That might be interesting. With the daughter of Vickie Guerrero accusing her stepfather of abuse, the attorney of Vickie has now released this statement. Chris and Vickie Benson respond to Sherilyn Guerrero's recent allegations. Chris and Vickie Benson vehemently deny Sherilyn Guerrero's recent allegations of sexual assault and abandonment. Ms. Guerrero, unsubstantiated accusations have caused the Bensons to suffer public ridicule, scorn, derision, and humiliation. Chris and Vickie fully appreciate the seriousness of allegations of this nature and the need for public support of sexual assault survivors. However, they ask that you withhold final judgment on this matter until they have an opportunity to bring Ms. Guerrero and her claims into a court of law, where judgment is based on facts and merit. When it comes to the draft in WWE, this was said by Steve Carrier of Ringside News. We reached out to confirm Vince McMahon's involvement in upcoming WWE draft. We were told that Vince has not offered any opinion on the draft. Speaking about rumors of a return to AEW for CM Punk, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful noted that Punk has laid out numerous scenarios in which he'd return. Among these includes a willingness to work with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. However, we've heard that at least as of a few months ago, Omega and Bucks didn't seem keen on doing that for obvious reasons. We're not sure if that's changed as AEW has progressed on landing new deals with them. Punk has also expressed his willingness to return to work for All Elite Wrestling and keep completely separate from the Elite along the way. There were some talent that were of the belief that the rumored upcoming Saturday AEW show could be used to help facilitate that with some separation to the AEW roster, but that's not something higher ups in AEW have confirmed to us. We're told Punk has been open to working elsewhere, though we're not sure if that means within the auspices of AEW such as Ring of Honor or the likes of WWE and NJPW. Talking about a potential AEW comeback for Punk, Dave Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio, the big thing was the promo on Adam Page, which was totally unprofessional. There's no defending it, but because he was never punished, which is one of the problems with this, is because he was never punished for it, it created a lot of heat that got worse and worse and worse. If he had been told, if he had done that promo and Tony Khan would have said, dude, you're going against the script, going to sit out for a couple of weeks, I think that at that point, either he would have pouted and quit and gone home, home, or he would have not pouted and quit and gone home, and maybe this thing would have been alleviated. I don't know which would have happened, but it didn't happen that way. So it got worse and worse and worse. And so now we're at this situation where it's like, obviously he's probably going to be back, and if they want to work and he's going to be back, there's ways to do it, but going in there and trying to make the other people look unprofessional is probably the worst way to do it, unless you're trying to just kind of like pressure them out of the company. If that's the idea, then again, we'll have to wait and see how it all turns out. This is clearly not good faith, because it was good faith, we wouldn't hear anything about it. They would settle it. They would settle it, and we would see an angle out of nowhere that would shock everyone, or at least even, or maybe we would talk about it or whatever and know the angle was coming. And if that happens, that's fine. But as long as they're talking about it, it tells me that number one, they have no deal to do it. And number two, by doing it publicly, they're not really looking at doing it. They're looking at playing a public relations game over it. For an interview with House of Wrestling, Konnan spoke about booking El Hijo del Vikingo, where he noted that Kenny Omega has had talks with WWE. Originally, we were going to bring in Omega, but he was still negotiating with AEW, and he wasn't sure if he was going to stay or not, so we couldn't commit. And he didn't want to come here until he signed. So that was out of the window, boom. And then after that, we asked for a couple people from AEW, and they weren't available. Then we got another guy who was hurt, and basically what we got was Swerve, which I don't have a problem with, because he may not have the name value as other people, but he's an incredible wrestler. I worked with him in Lucha Underground, and Ricochet had actually recommended him to me. I think the match will be great because Rich Swann is great. You've got one guy from AEW, one guy from Impact, and then you've got Commander. I'm assuming, I never really asked him, but there are plans for him in the future, so I'm thinking he already signed. But you know, he wasn't sure if he was going to stay, and WWE was talking to him, you know, so we couldn't get him to commit. Explaining the contract status of former AEW champion Kenny Omega, it was said on Wrestling Observer Radio, okay, this stuff with Kenny Omega. Konnan did an interview, and it got people thinking that Kenny Omega had signed a new contract. Kenny Omega is under contract with AEW. His contract was extended because he was out for, I think, 9 months due to injury. I believe that he is under contract until around November or December. There is no new deal that's been signed. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.